My roommate said, "I used your info for a small purchase." Then I got a call from the police saying my name was on a fraud report and my bank account was completely frozen. When my roommate, Tom, 28, said, "Hey man, I used your info for a small purchase. Don't freak out," I didn't even process what he'd said. He grinned like it was nothing. We'd been living together in Austin for almost a year, splitting rent, Wi-Fi, and late-night pizza orders. Tom was that guy who always had a hack for everything. Cheaper concert tickets, free streaming trials, gas card cashbacks. He'd call himself financially enlightened, which usually meant morally flexible. A week later, I got an email from my bank. "Suspicious activity detected. Your account has been temporarily frozen." I laughed at first, thinking it was some phishing scam. Then came the call, a polite voice saying, "Mr. Miller, your name appears in a fraud report." My stomach dropped. That afternoon my debit card got declined at a cafe, and the barista gave me that pitying look reserved for people who can't afford a $4 latte. By evening, my landlord texted that my rent payment bounced, and he said it loudly in front of the neighbors. I just stood there, cheeks burning, staring at my phone, while everyone pretended not to listen. Worse yet, Tom was leaning on our balcony, sipping beer, watching me unravel, and smiling like the world's most relaxed arsonist. I rushed home that night, half running from the parking lot. Tom was on the couch, legs up on the coffee table, a box of pepperoni pizza half gone, Netflix blaring some true crime show, irony at its cruelest. "Did you use my info?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. He didn't even look up. "Yeah, man. I just opened a small payment plan, killer discount. Relax." My heart was pounding. For what? TV. And a few other things. It turned out a few meant 5 credit accounts, store cards, buy now pay later schemes, and a new iPhone lease. All under my name. Total, $17,000. I felt the air go out of the room. Tom noticed my expression and laughed like it was a prank. "Chill, dude. I'm making payments. They'll never come after you. It's just a technicality." A technicality. He'd literally committed identity fraud and was calling it a technicality. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in front of my laptop till 3 a.m., opening tabs faster than I could think. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, FTC Identity Theft Portal. I filled out reports, froze my credit, changed passwords, and created a folder on my desktop called Tom Fallout. My savings were still intact, but my credit score had cratered 140 points overnight. The next morning, I went to the Austin Police Department. The officer taking my statement looked tired, like he'd heard every version of this story 100 times before. "Roommates and family, they're the most common offenders," he said, tapping on his keyboard. "You're doing the right thing by reporting it early." I nodded, though I didn't feel right. I felt hollow. When I walked out, the sky had turned that dull Texas gray that means the day's about to drown you. The rain came down hard. I didn't even run for the car. I just let it hit me. Back home, Tom was gone, his sneakers by the door, but the rest of him missing. His room was still full of stuff. Laundry, open boxes, a PlayStation controller on the bed. He'd gone to work like nothing happened. I stood in the doorway, staring at his clutter, thinking how strange it was that someone could destroy your financial life with a few keystrokes and still make it to their 9 to 5 on time. By afternoon, the consequences started rolling in like waves. A collections agency called about a delinquent furniture account. Then an email from a credit bureau confirmed a fraudulent car loan inquiry. Tom had apparently tried to finance a used Tesla under my name. I called him, straight to voicemail. Then, as if fate wanted to twist the knife, I got a text from our landlord. "Need to talk about rent. It's been 3 days. I can't keep holding your half." My half, which Tom was supposed to have sent from our joint payment app, was gone too. He'd used my account to pay his portion and skipped mine entirely. When he finally came home that night, I was waiting. No yelling this time, just exhaustion. "Tom, I filed reports. With the banks, the police, the credit bureaus." He froze, pizza box in hand. "You what? You stole from me." His face twisted into mock outrage. Wow, so that's how it is? I helped you build credit, dude. You're acting like I burned your house down. You burned everything I trusted, I said quietly. He rolled his eyes. You're being dramatic. I almost laughed. Dramatic. The word hung in the air like a bad smell. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time since moving in. The sound of Tom's laughter from the living room, that low, careless chuckle, made my stomach knot. At 2 a.m., I opened my laptop again. New email. Fraud claim received. Estimated review time. 60 days. 60 days. 2 months of limbo. I sat there staring at the screen until my reflection blurred into the glow of the monitor. Somewhere in the apartment, Tom snored like a man without conscience. The rain outside had stopped, but inside, everything still felt soaked. Heavy, cold, and impossible to dry out. The next week felt like watching my own life through glass. I could see it falling apart, but couldn't reach in to stop it. My bank account stayed frozen. My paycheck bounced back into payroll limbo. Bills stacked up like an avalanche of polite threats. Rent, utilities, phone. Even my grocery delivery app declined my card. Tom, meanwhile, was living like nothing happened. I'd wake up to the sound of him blending smoothies, laughing on speakerphone, scrolling through TikTok finance gurus, as if he hadn't detonated my financial life. Don't be dramatic, Ben, he said one night when I confronted him again. It's just credit. You'll fix it. You always fix things. Tom, there are fraud investigators calling me every day. The police have your name. He shrugged, mid-bite of leftover pizza. They can't prove anything. It's all digital. Just chill until it blows over. It wasn't blowing over, it was expanding. Every morning, new calls, new emails. Fraudulent accounts popping up like weeds. A furniture store in Dallas, an electronics outlet in Houston, even a payday loan site that had approved me for $1,500 at 300% interest. Then came the worst part, the humiliation. HR called me in on Wednesday. My manager, arms folded, gave me that look reserved for people you used to trust. Ben, we heard about the bank investigation. Until that's cleared, corporate wants you on unpaid leave. I tried explaining. Identity theft, roommate, police report. But the more I talked, the guiltier I sounded. They handed me a form labeled temporary administrative suspension and asked me to clear my laptop. I walked out with a cardboard box, the same kind they give you when they fire you outright. That afternoon, I opened the fridge to find all my groceries gone. Tom had eaten everything. When I asked, he grinned. I'll pay you back when this crypto thing I'm in blows up. Crypto thing? Yeah, bro, next phase coin or something. Bree's running it. You should invest. Big returns. I just stared at him. He was already planning his next scam while living off my stolen credit. That night, I heard my phone vibrating nonstop. Unknown numbers. Collection agencies. One even left a voicemail saying, Mr. Miller, failure to resolve this debt may result in legal action. I sat there in the dark, listening to the message on repeat, wondering how my own name had become a weapon against me. And then came the guilt campaign. Tom's mom called first, her voice shaking. Ben, sweetie, please don't ruin his life over this. He's been depressed. He made a mistake. He committed fraud. He didn't mean to. You two were like brothers. Please just drop the charges. He's not sleeping. He says you hate him. I hung up. A minute later, Tom texted me. Really, dude? You got my mom crying? What's wrong with you? Then he posted on Facebook. My best friend turned me in over a misunderstanding. Thought we were brothers. Guess loyalty's dead. Within hours, mutual friends were commenting. There's always two sides. Ben, come on man, talk to him. This is so sad. You guys were tight. Sad? It was ruin. My reputation cratered faster than my credit score. At work, my Slack messages went unanswered. My group chat with friends went quiet. People were whispering. Not about Tom the scammer, but me, the guy who called the cops on his friend. I spent that weekend printing everything, screenshots, statements, emails, text logs. My living room turned into a crime board. Every connection led back to Tom's fingerprints. By Sunday, I hadn't left the apartment in 48 hours. The walls felt smaller somehow, the air thicker. Tom walked in from his business meeting, reeking of weed and cheap whiskey, humming along to some trap song. "Bro, why are you being so cold?" he asked, tossing his keys on my table. "We can fix this together." "There's no we," I said quietly. He chuckled, heading to his room. "You'll come around. You always do." I stared at the door after it closed. For the first time, I realized I was living with someone who truly believed he could do anything, and I'd clean up the mess. But not this time. Because what Tom didn't know was that the police report had already triggered a federal fraud investigation. The bank had traced IP addresses, and all the logins led straight to our apartment's Wi-Fi and his devices. He was still humming in the shower that night, blissfully unaware that his own arrogance had started the countdown to his collapse. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something close to calm. Not joy, not relief, just the quiet understanding that the storm he'd built was finally about to turn on him. 2 weeks later, Detective Morris called while I was microwaving leftovers at my temp job. I'd been scraping by, doing data entry at a logistics firm, the kind of work where no one learns your name. My phone buzzed, and I stepped into the hallway, past rows of humming computers. "Mr. Miller," the detective said, his tone steady, businesslike. "We picked up your roommate this morning." For a second, I couldn't breathe. "Picked him up?" Tom partially confessed. "Said he was just helping you build credit." There was the faintest hint of sarcasm in his voice. "We've got a warrant for his devices and the storage unit under your name. He used your ID there, too." Of course he did. I'd forgotten about the storage unit. A small 5x10 space I'd rented months ago for some old furniture. Tom must have copied my lease papers and used them for another scam. I thanked the detective, hung up, and went back to my desk pretending to type, my heart hammering. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. A link from a coworker. "Dude, is this your building?" I clicked it. A TikTok video, grainy but unmistakable. Tom, in the same hoodie he wore every day, being led out of our apartment building in handcuffs. 2 uniformed officers, 1 detective in plain clothes. Tom's head was down, but I recognized his walk, that lazy bounce of someone who thought he was untouchable. The caption read, "Austin guy arrested for scamming his roommate. 17K in fake credit accounts eyes." And the comments. God, the comments. "Ben's a narc. All that over a TV? Bro code is dead. Could have just handled it privately." People who didn't know a thing about my life were dissecting it like a TV drama. One clip had over 100,000 views by evening. Someone even found my LinkedIn, screenshot my photo, and posted, "This the guy who snitched?" I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. For months, I'd been living in quiet chaos, trying to keep my sanity. Now strangers were turning it into entertainment. That night, my phone rang, unknown number. I should have ignored it. "Hello. You destroyed my life." Tom's voice cracked through the speaker, raw and furious. "You had me arrested? After everything I did for you." I stayed silent. "I was trying to help us live better. You think I wanted to screw you? I was building a credit base. We could have leveraged it for business lines, investments, crypto. You stole from me, Tom. I invested in us," he screamed. "You always had this loser mindset, man. I was gonna make us rich." There was a heavy pause, then quieter. "You'll regret this. Everyone will see who you really are." I hung up without another word. The next morning, Detective Morris called again. "Mr. Miller, just so you know, the DA's filing felony identity theft charges. The total amount and the digital trail make it open and shut. He'll likely face time." Hearing the word, felony, hit harder than I expected. I'd wanted justice, but the sound of it felt heavy. Final. Not revenge, not closure, just gravity. The detective continued, "We found additional victims. Your roommate used variations of your info on multiple fake profiles. There's a pattern. Looks like you weren't the first." "Victims?" I asked quietly. 2 ex-roommates, a former coworker, even a family member. Same playbook. Helping them build credit. He's done. That evening, I walked past our apartment for the first time since he'd been arrested. Police tape was gone, but the memory wasn't. Through the window, I could see the shadow of our old couch, the same one we used to eat pizza on. Only now it sat in an empty room, silent, stripped bare. Outside, the air smelled like rain again, the same way it had the night everything started falling apart. I sat in my car watching the building until the streetlights flicked on. People passed by, some glancing at their phones, probably scrolling through that same TikTok video. None of them knew that inside that building was a year of friendship that had rotted from the inside out. My name was still tangled up in the mess online, but at least the truth, the real truth, was finally on record. Tom once told me he believed life was a game of loopholes, that if you knew the rules well enough, you could cheat them without consequence. But the thing about loopholes is that eventually they close. And when they did, Tom was the one standing on the wrong side. The legal part dragged on like slow surgery. Once the dust from the arrest settled, Tom found a way to make things worse. He filed a countersuit. The claim: emotional distress, defamation, and false accusations. He wanted $30,000. His lawyer, some discount civil attorney probably hired off a billboard, sent the paperwork through certified mail, thick with legalese and self-righteousness. I remember opening it on my kitchen counter, reading the first line, and actually laughing out loud. Tom's mother had apparently contributed a witness statement. It said I'd used her son's trusting nature and turned him into a scapegoat for a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding that somehow involved 5 credit cards, a car loan attempt, and a felony arrest. My attorney, Catherine Reeves, flipped through the folder like she was reading a comic book. "He confessed in writing," she said dryly, holding up the police transcript. "This will be dismissed faster than it takes me to order lunch." She was right. The pretrial hearing was almost anticlimactic. The courtroom smelled like old wood and anxiety. Tom sat at the defense table, slouched, wearing a wrinkled button-down that looked borrowed. His once-practiced smirk was gone, replaced by hollow eyes and shaking hands. The arrogance had drained out of him like air from a punctured tire. When the judge entered, everyone rose. Tom didn't look up. I could see his mother sitting in the second row, clutching a tissue, glaring at me like I'd murdered her son. The prosecutor laid out the evidence cleanly: transaction logs, IP records, text messages where Tom bragged about building credit, and his recorded call from jail where he told a friend. Ben overreacted. I only used his info because he had better numbers. The judge looked unimpressed. "Mr. Parker," she said finally, voice cool and even, "do you admit to using Mr. Miller's personal information to obtain credit without his consent?" Tom hesitated, jaw tightening. His attorney leaned in, whispering something that sounded like, "Take the deal." Finally, he muttered, "Yes." The sound was small, barely audible, but it landed like a hammer. The judge nodded. "The court accepts your plea. You are hereby sentenced to 3 years probation, $17,000 in restitution to Mr. Miller, 180 hours of community service, and mandatory financial counseling." Tom's shoulders slumped. His mother let out a quiet sob. The gavel came down with a dull thud that echoed through the room, the sound of finality, of doors closing. Outside, reporters weren't waiting. There was no viral clip this time, no digital audience. Just the 3 of us, me, Tom, and his mother, standing on the courthouse steps in the thin winter sunlight. She turned to me, eyes red, voice sharp. "Are you happy now? He has a record. He can't get a job. You've ruined his life." I met her gaze evenly. "He earned it." She gasped like I'd slapped her, but I was done explaining morality to people who'd never learned it. Catherine touched my shoulder lightly. "Come on," she said. "You did everything right. Let's go." As we walked toward the parking lot, I heard Tom's voice behind me, low and shaky. "Ben, wait." I turned. He looked smaller somehow, like someone had deflated the version of him that used to fill every room. "I didn't think it'd go this far," he said. "I thought I could fix it before it got bad." "You always think that," I said. "That's the problem." He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Later, when the restitution payments started trickling in, $50 here, $100 there, I'd see his name on the statement and feel nothing. No satisfaction, no anger. Just a line of text. Thomas Parker, restitution payment received. Life slowly started rebuilding itself after that. My credit unthawed. My job reinstated me with an awkward HR apology. And I moved into a new apartment with walls that didn't echo old arguments. Sometimes I'd see his mother at the grocery store. She'd glance away, pretending not to notice me. Once, I saw Tom himself, downtown, sweeping outside a county office in a reflective vest. He looked up, our eyes met, and for a brief second, there was recognition. Not hate, just regret, or maybe the realization that I'd finally become someone he couldn't manipulate. He looked away first. That night, I walked home and, for the first time in months, didn't check my bank balance before sleeping. The silence in my account felt like peace. He got his sentence. I got my life back. And in the end, that was more justice than any courtroom could have written. 3 months later, the accounts were finally unfrozen. The letters from the banks stopped arriving daily. The frantic calls from collection agencies dwindled to silence, and the temporary chaos that had once defined every waking hour finally faded. But the damage remained. My credit score was shattered. Renting a new apartment felt impossible. Any loan application, no matter how small, bounced back with cold rejections. Even something as trivial as a new phone plan turned into a bureaucratic nightmare. Tom? He paid back only $400 before vanishing, leaving behind a forwarding address that went straight to voicemail. He didn't apologize, didn't explain, didn't even look back. The network of people who had once called him clever and me dramatic murmured from the sidelines. A few old friends sent texts. You could have handled it privately. Why drag it through the courts? No. Friendship ends where identity theft begins. That's a line I now know cannot be crossed. Life was quieter after that. I moved into a modest apartment, away from the streets where the whispers of judgment still lingered. Slowly, I rebuilt what I could, not the credit yet, but the sense of safety, the knowledge that I could survive betrayal. Each cleared bill, each restored account, each evening without calls from angry strangers felt like a brick laid in the foundation of my new normal. Then I met Allison. She had a calm presence, the kind of patience that makes you want to tell her everything. One night, over coffee, I found myself recounting the entire saga. The frozen accounts, the false debts, the TikTok humiliation, the courtroom. I told her about the sleepless nights, the stolen pizza, the anxiety that left my hands shaking while staring at my statements. She just listened, and when I finished, she smiled softly and said, "You did the right thing." I realized then that justice isn't always about satisfaction or revenge. It's about reclaiming control, setting boundaries, and protecting yourself from people who refuse to respect you. Tom had tried to exploit my trust, and in doing so, he revealed the depth of his own selfishness. I didn't need him to admit guilt. The evidence spoke for itself. Sometimes, when I'm quiet, I hear that phrase echoing in my mind, just a small purchase. It wasn't small, not even close. It had cost me savings, sleepless nights, my old apartment, the temporary collapse of my career, and a sense of security I hadn't realized I'd taken for granted. But it also bought me clarity. It taught me to be cautious without being cynical, to protect what is mine, and to recognize who is worthy of trust. It reminded me that loyalty is not a free pass to exploit someone else's life. I still check my accounts obsessively sometimes. Old habits die hard. But now I do it with awareness, not panic. I have rebuilt my finances slowly, with patience, careful budgeting, and the occasional reminder of just how fragile trust can be. And most importantly, I have rebuilt my peace. Life is quieter, more grounded, less glamorous perhaps, but mine entirely. That small phrase, once flippant, now carries weight. Just a small purchase. It cost more than I ever imagined, but it gave me something irreplaceable. A lesson I will never forget, a boundary I will never let anyone cross again, and the certainty that my life, rebuilt on truth and accountability, is finally my own. Sometimes I still think about Tom. I wonder if he ever learned the same lesson. I hope he did. I know I did.